Good afternoon, world. Today I'd like to talk about the subject of health insurance, comprehensive health insurance for people like me living here more or less full-time in Thailand. I know that health insurance is not something that we all like to think about too often, but maybe it's something of great importance. I lived most of my life in Europe, and so I was used to always having some sort of universal health care coverage, just in case I needed to see a doctor or needed to go to hospital. I've actually been very, very lucky. I know I've been luckier than many, many people, especially many people of my age. I've only been to hospital once, and that was when I was pretty young, when I wasn't even 30 years old. I spent about 10 days in hospital in Germany with pneumonia, which is quite an unusual problem for a young person to have. But anyway, that was the one and only time I spent in hospital in my life. And for years and years of my life, I went without needing to see a doctor. Probably 10 years, I didn't see a doctor. I didn't have anything wrong with me. I didn't feel any need to see a doctor or have a medical checkup. I worked for a big television company in Germany for many years. I don't believe I had a single day of illness the whole time I worked for that company. So I've had a very fortunate health history. But even so, now this year I was 70, became 70 two or 3 months ago in June. And at the age of 68, when I was living in Chiang Mai, I decided, and quite soon after I moved here to Thailand, I decided it would be a good idea to find out about getting some sort of proper health insurance just in case. Because as you get on in life, as you get older, you do begin to think about, what life looks like in the years ahead, whether I will continue to be as lucky as I have been and as healthy as I have been, whether, as is normal when you get to an advanced age, when you become genuinely ancient, whether indeed I might need some sort of, medical treatment, some sort of hospital treatment or whatever. So I began to look into that whole question of health insurance. And I spent about 6 weeks actually looking at a whole number of different policies, comparing them, and deciding which was best for my own purposes, for what I was looking for. I spent a long time researching health insurance policies, the sort of cover they gave, and of course the premiums they cost. And for myself, I decided I didn't really want or need an insurance policy which covered me for everyday incidental medical expenses, whatever it might be, whether it's, I suffer from allergies, and occasionally I take some medication for my allergy. But, the costs involved in Thailand are so minimal. We're talking about $10 or $15 for, a whole course of treatment, that it didn't seem necessary for me to have a health insurance which covered that sort of, those sort of cases. And so I decided what I really need for my peace of mind, apart from anything else, peace of mind, I really needed a policy which covered those really serious, catastrophic, serious conditions, situations. For example, if I had a very bad motorbike accident or road accident and was laid up in hospital, who knows, for months or weeks or maybe months, needing some sort of operations, could be a big and serious event, having a serious road accident. Or, of course, the other thing, that big theme, the big potential illness, especially getting older, cancer, a serious medical condition that needs extensive and possibly very expensive treatment. Those are the sorts of things that I thought I should really prepare for, an insurance policy which would cover me for those situations, either having a road accident or, like I say, maybe getting something like cancer, which needs very intensive, extensive, and expensive treatment. One thing I realized quite soon, when I looked into these policies and made a comparison, there are certain factors which are particularly important in deciding the premiums that need to be paid. Probably this number one factor is age, the age at which you take out the policy. And obviously, the older you are, the higher the premiums will be. That's a golden rule, I think. That's the first thing. So there's an incentive to get insured before you get too old. It can be difficult. It can even be impossible to get an insurance company, to find an insurance company prepared to insure you when you get above a certain age, for example, the age of 80. And it's generally speaking, it's easier and cheaper to get started before the age of 70. So 2 years ago, when I was still 68, I went ahead and did this research and got myself this insurance policy. I've heard it said that at the age of 70, even existing policies, the premiums tend to get bumped up quite considerably. In my case, it doesn't seem to be so. I've just had a quote today for my next year's policy. The next 12-month cover starts in October this year. And this year I was 70. And in fact, my premium hardly increases. I'll go into that a little bit in more detail later on. But as I say, age is an important factor. It's a good thing to get started when you're not too old. That's one important question about age. The other thing is that some policies don't cover you indefinitely. And one thing that it seemed to me that was very important for me, if I get a cover, I don't want it, if I stay here for the rest of my life in Thailand, I don't want to have a situation in, say, 10 years' time when I'm 80, if I'm still around at the age of 80, of finding that my policy expires, that they say, okay, you've reached the maximum age, we're not covering you anymore. Because the worst thing that can happen would be the age of 80 having to look for a new insurance policy. So it was also important for me to find a company that not only insured me at the age of, in this case, 68 2 years ago, but continued to insure me right up to, well, preferably until I no longer need insurance, so I'm not around anymore. And in the case of the policy which I found, company I found, provider I found, it covers me to the age of 99. So I'm hoping that will pretty well cover me for all I need. So that's the second question, where age is important. The age at which you begin the policy and the question of how long that policy will cover you for. So, okay, that was important for me. Another factor which is very important is pre-existing conditions. A lot of people of my age, friends of mine, have had new knees, new hips, all sorts of fairly serious operations already. As I say, I've been very fortunate. I've never had anything like that so far. But pre-existing conditions will affect your premiums very directly. In my case, as I say, I don't really haven't had any pre-existing conditions. The other thing which affects premiums a lot, of course, is the question of what exactly your insurance covers you for. My insurance, as I said before, only really covers me for very serious things. In other words, for inpatient cover in hospital. So I need to go into hospital for treatment. That's when my insurance will cover me. It doesn't cover me for outpatient costs. And as I said before, they tend to be, in Thailand, relatively speaking, they tend to be low costs. You know, the cost of a prescription, the cost of the course of antibiotics or something like that is very low in Thailand. So I didn't need or want outpatient cover. I didn't want dental cover. I recently had a gold crown which fell off one of my teeth. It was fitted about 40 years ago, literally 40 years ago. And it recently fell off my tooth. And I had to go to the dentist and have it stuck back on or into my tooth. And that cost me about 500 baht, which is, how much is that? 500 baht, about 14 or 15 US dollars. So that gives you an indication of what it costs to have things done privately, paid out of your own pocket. So that was an example of a dental cost here in Thailand. The other question is, of course, the level of your cover. How high, how expensive the treatment can be and still be covered by the insurance policy. In my case, I wanted quite a high cover because, as I say, I only wanted to cover serious things like cancer, and those serious things tend to be very expensive to treat. So I wanted a pretty high level of cover. And the other thing, of course, okay, I talked about inpatient. In my case, only inpatient, no outpatient, no dental cover. And the other question is geographical cover. Now, of course, I'm living here in Thailand, so for me, the most important thing is, of course, to cover me for Thailand. My own policy, in fact, includes the whole of the world when I'm traveling, provided I'm still living here in Thailand, but it'll cover me when I'm traveling or on holiday in another country, except for the USA, which is really just a reflection of how expensive it is in the US to get medical treatment. So it doesn't cover me if I visit the US. I don't get any cover with my insurance policy, but the whole of the rest of the world is covered by my insurance policy. So, as I said before, it's quite cheap here to be treated medically. I had one experience of that. It wasn't something I chose, but quite soon after I arrived, I bought my first motorbike, secondhand motorbike, and I was actually on my way to register the bike in Chiang Mai, and I had a road accident. And it wasn't my fault. It was entirely the fault of the Thai car driver who drove out of a side road very, very near to where I was on the road, so that I had no chance of avoiding hitting that car. In fact, I didn't even brake. I think I was traveling at about 50 kilometers per hour at the time. And all I did is very, very instinctively stand up on the pegs of the motorbike so that I didn't myself go into the car, didn't go into the front of my motorbike. But it had the effect, because of the momentum of the car of my bike going into the car, this had the effect of me standing on the pegs that I was catapulted over the top of the car, over the bonnet or the hood of the car, which came across in front of me. I did serious damage to that car. He needed, I think, to spend a lot of money to get it fixed afterwards. But first thing that happened to me is I flew through the air. I think I did a somersault in the air. I remember thinking, I don't want to land on my face. I was wearing a helmet. I didn't want to land on the front of my body. I wanted to land on my back, and I landed on my back. So I think I did a somersault over that car. Landed on the road in the midday sun. It was very hot. And I remember I could still speak. I wasn't unconscious. Didn't feel very happy lying on the road. And the Thais who came up to me, and there was a policeman, I think, one of the first people who came up to me, and I was lying on the road. I said to him, please call an ambulance. I wanted an ambulance. I wanted to be checked up on. I wanted to make sure that I hadn't been injured, especially back injury, something of that sort. So I insisted that they call an ambulance, which they did. After what seemed like a long time, was probably only about 10 minutes or so, an ambulance arrived. They put me in the ambulance, took me to the nearest hospital. This was after COVID. Well, one thing I remember very clearly, the only thing they checked on when I was in the ambulance was they put a swab up my nose to see if I had COVID. But they didn't do anything else. So I'm telling this story for a reason, the story about what happened to me with the motorbike accident and being packed into an ambulance and taken to the nearest hospital. As I say, the only thing they actually checked on in that ambulance was whether or not I had COVID, which I thought was not the most important thing. But anyway, took me to the nearest hospital. I actually had a whole series of x-rays. I was seen by a number of different doctors. I didn't need to stay in the hospital, but I did transfer to a different hospital in Chiang Mai, because the one I went to originally from the ambulance, I wasn't particularly impressed by the way they looked after me. So I went to a Swan Doc, a big hospital in Chiang Mai, to be checked on again. I went and saw 2 or 3 different doctors there. As I say, had a number of x-rays. I had taken the skin off one of my arms, and I had injured the Achilles heels of both of my ankles, because I think when I did the somersault in the air, I landed very heavily on my feet and damaged my ankles, damaged the Achilles heels. So it was difficult to walk. I'm telling the story about what happened and being taken to hospital and so on as an illustration of the sort of costs involved, because the car driver who caused this accident, the police said he was entirely responsible for the accident, and they fined him 500 baht, which is considered a high fine in this country. That's about, what's that, 14, 15 US dollars fine for dangerous driving. Anyway, the driver of that car, luckily he was insured, and a lot of Thais don't have insurance, but he was. And his insurance actually paid all of my medical costs. And I know what it cost for the ambulance, for the treatment of the doctors, for the x-rays, for getting my arm patched up where I'd taken the skin off my arm, even the therapy I had later, which went on for several weeks, some sort of hot lamp therapy for my Achilles tendons, which were injured. The whole set of treatment, which was paid by his insurance, came to about 12,000 Thai baht, which I think is less than 500 US dollars. So just putting things into perspective for people who don't yet live here in Thailand, especially Americans, I think it would be inconceivable in America that, you could be taken to hospital in an ambulance, be seen by a number of doctors, have a whole lot of x-rays taken and so on, and the whole lot comes to less than 500 US dollars. So that's what happened with my motorbike accident. So I have a pretty good idea what these sort of medical costs, how high they are in Thailand. So that helped me actually when I came to look for my health insurance plan. It helped me to decide all I really wanted was inpatient cover, and I wanted a pretty high level of cover so that if I do have a serious issue, that it will be properly covered by the insurance. I also wanted, because I only wanted insurance for these sort of emergency situations, I wanted to reduce the premium as much as I could, but still maintain a high level of cover. And the easiest way of doing that is to have a high so-called deductible. And the deductible is the amount of money that you pay yourself towards the cost of treatment when you have that medical issue that needs to be covered by the insurance. In my case, I chose just about the highest level of deductibles that is possible to have, 300,000 Thai baht, which is, I think, about 9,000 US dollars. So the first 9,000 US dollars of medical treatment, I need to pay myself. Again, I'm only looking for insurance which covers me for really serious things. So if I had something like a very serious road accident or cancer, which may come to a lot more than $9,000, the first 9,000 is paid by me by having a high deductible and reducing my premium. I'll tell you what my policy actually covers and what the details are for my policy. My policy only includes inpatient treatment, no outpatient cover. But if I have a medical condition which needs, long-term care after the accident, for example, as is the case with my motorbike accident, well, it wasn't long-term, but several weeks I had therapy for my Achilles heels, that insurance will also cover that. So if it's a consequence of the initial condition, the insurance policy will cover that. So I have a policy which gives me cover of 5 million Thai baht per condition and per year. It gives me a cover of 5 million Thai baht for each condition per year. So if I had the serious misfortune of not only having a serious road accident in 1 year, but also getting cancer the same year, it would actually give me 5 million baht cover for the road accident, and also 5 million, separate 5 million maximum, cover, which is about 150,000 US dollars for the second issue, for example, cancer. So it's not a total of 5 million per year. It's 5 million Thai baht, 150,000 US dollars per condition per year. So that's pretty high level of cover in this country where costs are much lower than in Europe or North America. That's the first thing. So I get a pretty high level of cover. I also have covered by the insurance when I'm in hospital, 8,000 baht per night for the accommodation or for the care in the hospital. That comes out of the 5 million, but it'll cover me up to 8,000 baht per day, per night, which is, again, a pretty high cost. That's about 235 US dollars per day or per night in the hospital. That's a pretty good cover. It'll give you probably a private room in a good private hospital here in Thailand. And in order to keep my premiums down, as I say, I have agreed and asked for a pretty high deductible, 300,000 baht, which is 9,000 US dollars. And this combination, high level of cover, 5 million per condition, $150,000 per condition per year, 8,000 baht or $235 per day, per night in the hospital, included in that 5 million. And as I say, with paying a $9,000 contribution myself in that situation, my total annual premium is 1,320 US dollars. It's about 43,000 Thai baht. And I'll give you an idea what difference it makes to have a deductible or to have a high deductible. As I say, in my case, because I'm only looking for something which will cover me for really serious, for a sort of catastrophic situation, it seemed to me to be sensible to go for a high deductible in that case. If I was looking for a comprehensive health insurance, which will also cover me for outpatient cover or dental cover, then in that case, I think, generally speaking, a lower deductible makes more sense because the chances of needing to use the insurance policy are that much higher. If the insurance policy covers a lot more, you're much more likely to be using it than in my case, which is designed for this sort of catastrophic situation. So by having the $9,000 deductible, my premium is $1,320 per year, which is, only about I think it's $1,300 is about $108 a month. If I reduce the deductible to $5,900 per year, the premium goes up to $1,600 per year. And if I have a fairly low deductible of only 3,000 US dollars, then the premium goes up to 1,800 US dollars per year. In other words, about $150 a month. So that's how the deductible affects the level of the premium. I was talking about the effect of having a lower or higher deductible on the premium. It doesn't actually make, I think, such a huge difference. As I say, with my relatively high deductible of about $9,000, I'm paying about 108 US dollars a month. And if I were to decrease that deductible to only about $3,000, in other words, I only pay the first $3,000 of treatment costs, then my premium goes up to $1,800 a year or $150 a month. So I'm paying at the moment about 44,000 baht per year. And actually, in preparing this little video today, I spoke with the insurance brokers that I use to get my policy. And I asked them, since my new premium for the next 12 months of cover is coming up at the beginning of October in just a few weeks' time, I asked them, in fact, what the difference of being now 70 years old will make to my premium for next year. And I was very pleased actually to hear that it makes almost no difference at all in my case. And one reason for that is that I found a policy which has a so-called no claims bonus. And this means that if you don't make a claim for the first 12 months of your policy, the first year's policy, they will give you a 10% discount on next year's premium. If you then also don't make a claim in the following year, you will get a 15% discount on the following year's premium. And in my case, because I'm coming up to the third year of cover, I get a 20% discount on my premium for not having made any claims. And I think, again, just like having a high deductible makes sense for me personally because of the sort of cover I was looking for. And I have actually agreed my policy. Equally, it makes a lot of sense to find, as I have done, to find an insurance company that gives this sort of no claims bonus, because I certainly hope in this case, only covering really catastrophic, serious situations, that the chances of me actually making a claim are pretty low. I hope so. So this no claims bonus makes particular sense, I think, to me, in my situation. 10% discount the first year, second year, so 15%, and third year, 20%. And that is the reason why, as they told me today, my premium for next year is practically the same as it is for this year, because I'm getting a 20% discount on my previous year's cover premium. And that basically counteracts the increase in the premium that would otherwise be there, because I'm now no longer under 70. I'm now 70 years old. So that's my situation. Now, I know it's obvious to me that everybody's different. People who are watching this, some will be older than me, even older than me. Some will be younger than me. Some will have pre-existing health conditions that I don't have and didn't have. Some will be looking for a different type of cover. So they'll be looking for more than just inpatient cover. They may be looking for outpatient cover. They may even be looking for dental cover. So people's situations are obviously different. What they're looking for are different. One thing I did discover when I did the research 2 years ago was that it didn't seem to me that there were any benefits from going directly to the health insurance companies and getting the insurance agreed directly with the insurance company. The premium seemed to be identical. The quotes I was given directly by the insurance company were basically absolutely identical to the insurance quotes I was getting from the broker. And I also did some research on forums. We looked at quite a lot of forums on the internet, and the general opinion seemed to be it's a good idea to get a policy through a broker of some sort, because if and when you need to make a claim, it's useful to have a broker on your side who will act as your attorney, as it were, who will actually act on your behalf and interface with the insurance company, so that you're not needing, especially if you're in a serious situation, serious illness or whatever, the last thing you want to do is is to also not only deal with your medical condition, but also have a discussion of some sort with the insurance company. That is done by the insurance agency, the brokers. And as I say, I contacted them today in preparation for this little video, and they told me what next year's premium will be. So, as I say, I discovered what next year's premiums will be, and I was very pleased to discover that they're hardly going to be any higher than this year. And as I said before, it's a good idea. It seems to be a good idea to go through an agency, an insurance brokers, when getting a policy. And of course, the brokers don't only work on behalf of one company. In the case of the ones that I went to, I think they had about 10 different insurance companies that they represent. And so, you can get a comparison of premiums and so on, coverage from them. From one place, they will give you a whole list of different options. If there's anybody watching today who would like to contact me, please do. You could do so directly here on YouTube. I'm happy to give you the details of the brokers that I used or the insurance company I used. My insurance provider sounds like a Western company. It's got a Western name, but in fact, it's a Thai company. And this has the advantage, I think, I don't know because I've never actually made a claim, but I'm hoping if it comes to that it'll be an advantage because they deal directly with the hospitals. By the way, an other important question is which hospitals are covered. One of the other important questions you might want to consider and research when you're getting your health insurance cover is, of course, which hospitals are covered by that insurance company. In my case, the insurance company that I chose, as I said before, is actually a Thai company, and they will deal directly with the Thai hospitals when it comes to making payments to the hospital or to the doctors. And of course, it's easy for them. If it's a Thai company, they can obviously communicate in Thai with the hospitals. And my insurance company covers practically every hospital in Thailand. So even the prestigious, expensive private hospitals that people come to from all over the world for treatment, even those hospitals are covered. There's a long, long list of hospitals covered by my insurance company. So if and when I ever need this to make a claim, if I need to go into hospital, the chances are that the hospital I want to go into will be on the list of hospitals covered by my policy. As I said before, if there's somebody out there who's interested to know more about the company or the brokers that I'm using, I'd be happy to tell them. Please drop me a line, contact me on YouTube, and I'll be happy to help you with that. I hope that this video today has been useful. And if you haven't already done so, please subscribe to my channel. Please give me a thumbs up, a like, and as I said before, maybe some constructive comments on what I've said today would be very helpful. Thank you very much indeed for watching, and I hope you continue to watch my channel. Thanks very much, and bye-bye. Ciao.